What's going on, folks? Welcome to another episode of Off the Couch Boxing. I'm your host, Rexx Ruger, watching my back. As always, you know him, you love him, you admire the mustache. El Flaco Explosivo, a.k.a. the Alexis Arguello puppet. We're back with another episode of Off the Couch Boxing, giving you always the most amazing and real boxing conversations, getting down to the nitty-gritty, the brass tacks, right here with legends, luminaries, world champions, and fighters on the rise, all coming here to chop it up with your boy Reckless Rexx. And tonight is no different. Got one of my favorite fighters coming on here tonight, man. Friend of the show. Believe this is his third time coming on, man. Always love catching up with this guy, man. Before he gets in here, let me go into the obligatory promotional mode because I gotta do it. First and foremost, make sure to like and follow Off the Couch Boxing on Facebook for updates on when new episodes are dropping, who will be on those episodes, and any other pertinent news that's popping off in the boxing world, upcoming fights, fight results, predictions, any pertinent news that's going on. If it's hot, if it's topical, I'm dropping it on there and keeping you guys in the loop. Also, if you're watching right now, like, subscribe, smash that notification bell, man, to stay tapped in, man. This is where it all goes down, man. And you got to stay tapped into the best boxing podcast on planet Earth. I can't speak for the other planets. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they got some great shit going on too, man. But who knows, man? But I can confidently say here on planet Earth, you are watching right now the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing podcasts. I say that with 100% confidence. All you got to do is go look at the playlist, look at the guest list, and see the amazing episodes, interviews, conversations that we have had on here, man. At the time of this recording, 177 episodes. Nobody's more productive. Nobody is running down these amazing guests for you, but your boy, Reckless Rexx. I got to give credit where credit is due. Of course, the first 160 episodes were co-hosted by my son, Frankie the Flamethrower. But now your boy Reckless Rexx is flying solo, and my guest is here, man. So we're going to get down to it and chop it up. Get down to the brass tacks like we always do on here, man. Let's go. Get my man in here, man, and chop it up, man. And do we got him? MALIEK, what's going on, man?
What's up?
Always good to see you, man. Listen, man, running right in the door from training, huh, man?
Yeah. I had to race upstairs with my girl.
Oh, man, that's cool, though, man. I appreciate it, man. First of all, man, how's everything going, man? Good?
Man, everything's going great, man. We in these final couple weeks for this fight. I'm ready.
Yeah, 20-0, 18 knockouts, man. It is. It's going well, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm happy for you, man. I'm happy for you. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You know, this being your third time on here, man, I'm pretty positive, man, that the other two times that you were on here, man, were you at featherweight or super featherweight?
I was at featherweight the first time. I think I was, but since then I've been campaigning at super feather.
But so where are you right now, though? Because BoxRec has you as a lightweight.
130. I'm on 130 right now. That's what we're fighting at.
Okay, and do you feel like you will progress even more weight divisions?
Yeah, absolutely. We just want to get us a world title at 130 first, and then we want to see what we're going to see with the landscape of them titles, you know, and everything looking like, and then we'll go from there.
Because obviously 135, a lot of big fish there, man.
Absolutely, man.
A lot of big fish.
A lot of them guys just not mixing up with each other. I don't get it, but
I know. I've had that conversation with so many guests on here. And before we get into talking about your career, I want to get your views on some of the hot topical shit that's going on right now. First of all, that polarizing decision between Tank and Roach. How did you see the fight?
Honestly, I thought Roach pulled that fight out, man. For me, for every shot that Tank was able to land and get off, Lamont was answering with 3 or 4 more shots. And it wasn't like he was punching and wasn't landing. He was landing, and he threw more, he landed more. I felt the majority of the fight, he was the more aggressive fighter. And it was a great fight all around, but I thought Lamont edged it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously, you know, it's a polarizing decision with the rules too. I mean, if you're in that corner you're Lamont Roach, and you see Tank take that knee, but whether it's hair product in his eyes or not, man, are you thinking that that's a knockdown? And
Yeah,
should that have been scored a knockdown?
Absolutely. I'm thinking it's counting as a knockdown. That it's supposed to be a elite. It's supposed to be a mandatory standing 8.
Yeah. And I also saw a lot of people, and I got a pretty good knowledge of the rules, but I also saw a lot of people say that they could have easily been disqualified for his trainer coming up onto the apron to wipe him off.
That's another rule. That's a no-no. But this is boxing, so
yeah. And now, what do you think about the? I don't know if you're up on this. I'm still pretty foggy on all the details, man. But apparently, a new boxing promotional company with Turki Al-Sheikh and Dana White.
Yeah, I've been hearing the rumblings of it. I think I watched something today about it a little bit. I haven't really read up on it as much, but yeah, that's interesting to see how that's going to unfold.
I mean, it sounds like he wants to kind of keep the same template that he has going right now, like what we just saw here on the Better Beevil rematch card. The best fighting the best, a stacked card, a low pay-per-view price. I mean, what the hell else can boxing fans want,
Yeah, like right now, the things that he's able to do over there, all it is now is actually to get the talent to actually get in the ring.
Yeah. And so so your last fight was in November. That was a 4th round knockout. So this guy right here is this will be your 3rd 10-rounder.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And now, do you think now that it's going to be 10-rounders and above, going forward?
Hopefully it will be. Of course, every now and then they'll throw in, those staying busy fights, but for the most part, we want to keep it at 10 round. And I think last time, because we were scheduled to fight a lot better record guys and a lot better guys. It was supposed to be initially, I was supposed to be fighting 10 rounder, and it came in for us so last minute, and it was like the only way they would do it was with, I think, 8. And so we signed on for 8 just so we can keep the date. And we're here now.
And I've asked a lot of recent guests this question. Obviously, the physical tools of boxing, how to throw a jab, certain things, can be taught. But I feel like the mental side of boxing, being able to harness that natural fear and anxiety that you must have when you're going to have a confrontation with another human being. I think most people's inclination is to avoid conflict, avoid a fight, turn around and get the hell out of there, whatever. So it's not easy to climb into a ring and say, I'm going to fight like another man. He's going to throw punches at me. I'm going to throw punches at him. When did you know that you had the mental toughness to do this? Because I feel like that is really what makes a fighter. Like I said, a lot of the physical stuff I feel like can be learned, but I think it's not people's natural tendency to want to be in a fight.
I think as a fighter, if you have that tendency to want to go towards the fight, I think this is just something you kind of, in a sense, you learn it about yourself when you're a child, when you're a kid, coming up through the amateur system, just coming up through life in general. You tend to not shy away from violence, but embrace it and and evolve from it. And I think it's built into you as a child, and then it just turns to something else as you get older.
Now, you made a good point a couple of minutes ago, man. Like, we were talking about the 135-pound division, but you kind of made a comment about it seems like a lot of these great fighters that are at that division don't seem to be making fights like with each other. What do you think the roadblock is? I've had people on here like say, maybe it's the advancement of technology where it's easy just to kind of, beef on Twitter and stuff, exchange words or whatever. But, when push comes to shove, it seems like, we're not getting the great fights made sometimes. I mean, that can be one component of it. Is there something else that you see that holds up these big fights being made?
Absolutely. I think it's partially, social media. A lot of guys could be a lot bigger on social media, and they have this huge presence on social media, and they feel, and they built up to be this big guy and this super mega star, and they know when it comes down to it, if they face with a certain type of opposition, that could possibly, be their downfall in the run of things, and they don't want that to happen. But outside of that, it's partially also boxing is a business now. It's mainly a business.
Yeah.
And when it comes to these contracts and who's getting bigger shares and who's worth this much and purses and things along that side, a lot of that stuff just does not a lot of these promoters and different people want it a lot more lopsided than they are willing to admit that the matches are. And I think that's causing a lot of conflict between actually getting these fights did in a long run scheme. Especially, we're talking about the top guys in the division on that level. They got a lot to lose. Like I said, social media platform and them being built up to be the superstar, all of that can come crashing down with with certain types of losses. And with that much, they with them putting that much on the line personally, they want to see the same upside be reflected when it comes to these purses and how much they can make and the potential things that can be done and they can make off of the bout even if they were to lose.
And it's almost like all that talking on social media, I kind of think what you're getting at, all that talking on social media, if they don't go in there and back it up, that whole mystique is kind of shattered.
Yeah, absolutely.
They built up.
Yeah,
and you know
absolutely.
what? I love that answer, man. And that's almost, you're only the second person I've heard really say that, man. The first person was I had Brian Norman Jr. on last night. He almost gave
that's my guy. That's my guy. Yeah, that's my guy.
He almost gave that same friggin' answer, man. He said a lot of these guys build themselves up and run their mouths on social media, and then they're afraid that they get in there, man, and they're exposed.
Yes, sir. That's how it goes, man. And you got guys out here like Brian Norman, like me, that out here hunting for these titles and hunting for these, these bigger fights, these higher profile fights that aren't as, big and boisterous online as other guys are. But, we just really take the opportunities as they come to us.
And that makes a lot of sense too. Then you see guys, who build up a resume, and they're undefeated, and you see a guy like, like Brian Norman, or you see a guy like Boots Ennis, and you say, wow, these guys are 26-0, 30-0, and then, the knock on them ends up being, oh, but there's no names on their resume. Who have they fought? But these guys want to have good fights.
Yep.
I mean, it's not their fault that they don't have the names on there. It's either a case of what you're saying, guys don't want to, be a notch on their belt. You know what I mean? So they're not going to take the fight. Easier to stay on the other end of social media and just run their mouth.
Absolutely, man. I know Brian and Boots very well. Brian, I used to spar Brian all the time, coming up through the amateurs, early pros. And I know Boots and his pops and that whole Philly squad from the amateurs good, in passing all the time at those national tournaments. And I know both of them as, personally, them guys trying to scrap. They can care less about anything else. So I always look at it as, the people handling them, the promoters, the managers, things along that side on that. And that's why I say, a lot of times, even if you can get a fighter that, two fighters that wanna fight each other, that don't care about, the win, the loss, they just want to fight the best. You got the outside powers that be that kind of continues to kind of throw everything out of whack when it comes to, who's making what. And I think we deserve this and we deserve that. And in a sense, as a fighter, sometimes we tend to kind of overlook those like minute kind of details when it comes to the business side of things, because we're so ready to, actually box and this is our job, this is what we love doing, and sometimes it's good to kind of have somebody to oversee those things and kind of argue on our behalf when it comes to things like that, to know that we're not getting screwed in some of these deals.
Yeah. Well, talking with Brian last night was refreshing because his pops was also in the interview too. So he's guided at least by somebody who not only has his best interests in mind, but is also family. And I commended them on it because pops doesn't really seem to try to take the shine. You know what I mean? Like from Junior, where you do see a lot of these boxing fathers do have a tendency to want to. They're almost living vicariously through their son, and they almost want the limelight more. I mean, Brian Sr. seems to do a very good job of not doing that. What about you, man? I think that is a big part of it. And other fighters have alluded to that too. Having a good team around you, man. Are you confident in the team and the people you've surrounded yourself with?
Absolutely, man. I feel like I made a lot of mistakes previously in my career up to this point. And even a lot of the things, a lot of the people I've trusted, people I've dealt with along the way, and even some of them not even mistakes, just more so processes that I felt like I kind of needed to go through to learn and develop as a fighter outside of the ring, more than anything. And learning, is more to boxing than just me just getting in the ring and me fighting, And the team that I have now, my manager, Trayvon Petrov, and my dad coaching, and it's just I feel like I still got my small team, my family, and that's all I've ever really needed.
Yeah, keep the circle small. It helps. It
Sure.
does. It does. And now, as I mentioned earlier, 20-0, 18 knockouts. So what do you feel like? And I don't know if you've discussed this with your team or not. What's the timeline on like when we think we'll see you in there? Getting a world title shot. I feel like it's got to be close.
Yeah, we're trying to look for something like that this year.
Yeah.
We're trying to make major moves, and again, all these behind the scene things we're trying to get done, in this early part of the year. That way we could look at being, a world champion by the end of the year, or at least right there in contingency as, number one guy, fight away from the title.
And so how active, man, like this being your first fight of 2025, we're already, 3 months into the year. How many more would you like to have in 2025?
I would love to have at least 3 more fights.
3 more.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. I've never been one of those guys that and it's crazy because even if you watch my fights, you would assume like, okay, yeah, he needs to go back, recover this, and like I've never been one of those guys that wants to sit out for 5-6 months between fights and fight 2 times out the year. Like, nah, I'm trying to get back in the ring. I can't just sit at home for too long. I'm steady in the gym. I just stay in the gym, and I'm ready, almost always ready to get back in the ring.
And now for people that aren't aware of you or your style, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, man, but you are certainly a guy who seems like you enjoy a good, as they say, a fight in the phone booth.
Mm-hmm.
Like you like being in there, you like trading, man, like you like being like, chest to chest with your opponent and really digging in there.
Oh, yes, sir. And again, that's just me. Is just like, every fighter has, something that sets them apart, an attribute that sets them apart from other fighters. That's why, the greats in the weight class and these different weight classes, they all have a kind of it factor that separates them from the rest of the fighters. And for me, that's just me. That's just my fighting style. That's what I love. I'm at home when I'm there.
And now I've posed this question to other boxers on here about, and you're somebody who's obviously exploring different weight classes and probably will continue to explore different weight classes. When we see somebody like Bud Crawford, climbing all the way up to 168 to fight Canelo. Now I've heard, the general consensus is I've had a lot of fighters on here who say if there is a fighter out there that could pull this off, it would be Bud. What's your assessment of his chances?
No, absolutely. I got his chest is high. And that's because his boxing temperament, but his overall boxing ability, man. For me, he's an overall better fighter than Canelo. Yeah. But there are weight classes for a reason.
Right.
And I don't know as far as him putting on that weight, and just from knowing, how guys blow up and people and guys go away class, that's a lot of weight to try to put on, and how much of that how much of that weight is actually going to be beneficial to, him actually fighting and him performing rather than him just putting on weight to make the weight. Right. And now that's a hindrance when you fight.
Right. Now, what's your own ceiling, man? Because obviously, like, you seem like a guy who's, you're obviously really tapped in. You have a laser focus. You certainly have an awareness of your own body and what you can do, man. So, like, what do you see, like, your ceiling being as far as, like, weight classes? How high can you go?
I think I don't want to go past 140. I think it's going to be my ceiling, just going to 40. Yeah, that's probably going to be my ceiling, 140.
But 35 and 40, man, lots of great fights there to be made, though.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely
deep divisions, man. Now, so like when you look at like, obviously, like in the last couple of years, man, there's been the 135 has really been under the microscope. Obviously, Tank is one of the bigger stars in the sport. Shakur is one of the biggest stars in the sport. You know what I mean? Lomachenko a few years back was a huge star that everybody made a big deal about, man. When the dust settles, who is the guy at 135 right now? Obviously, the fight, if fans feel like they need to see, is Tank and Shakur.
Mm-hmm. I think so. As of right now, that's the fight. And I really do feel like a lot of those guys too are on their way or on their approach to go to 140. And I think it's mainly because of the fact that those major fights aren't being made at 35.
Yeah.
And these guys basically having to sit around and hold these weight for years on end, trying to like you can use Keyshawn Davis as as an example. Even though he doesn't have as many fights as those guys, he's already up there at world champion status.
Yep.
And he's gunning for Tank right now. And I still don't see those fights being made anytime soon. And with that being the case, how long are these guys basically going to sit on the sideline waiting for these fights to happen? And then, of course, they're going to eventually get matched up with some guy that they completely outclass, to stay busy or just to get back in the ring, and nobody's going to want to see it. And, everybody's going to have their opinion on the performance. And it's just going to continue to just add to the decline of, everything that's going on.
Now, in your opinion, I obviously you said at the top of the interview that you thought like Lamont Roach, edged that fight out. Stylistically, is that Tank's kryptonite? Is that the type of guy who beats him? A guy that fights a tactical fight? I mean, because obviously it's bandied about on social media. Tank will knock Shakur out, but then Shakur's fans will say, Shakur just has too high of an IQ, just too great of a tactical boxer or whatever. So, like when the dust settles, man, because for a while there, it did seem like Tank was one of those guys who were just unbeatable, give away early rounds, and then just whatever he wanted to, just step on the gas and get a guy out of there. Was a little bit of the mystique and a little bit of the shine kind of taken off of Tank with this last performance? Did we see him exposed a bit?
I don't think, I believe it or not, I don't think he was exposed as everybody wants to say. I feel like those I think because of the history with him and Lamont and how he typically fights those first 5 to 6 rounds, I felt like he probably went in there thinking he could just do that, because the last 3 fights he's had, he's literally, that's all he had to do. He's not been forced to actually work and, have to, make adjustments and things along of that nature. And then eventually he just knows he's going to walk him down and he's going to stop him. And I think Lamont was great in his counterpunching, was completely on point. And more than just being a precision fighter, he stayed persistent the whole fight. And like I said, he answered everything that Gervonta threw. And part of that was making him work a lot more than he's had to work in the past. Because he felt like, okay, he was down, or I got to pick it up. And when Tank decided to pick it up, Lamont picked it up. So even with him fighting a very precise, counterpunching fight, he stayed busy for the entirety, of the fight.
Yeah. And now, interestingly enough, though, man, like you're at 130. Lamont has a belt at 130, though, too. You know what I mean? Like, that's a potential fight.
Yeah. I would love for Lamont to come down and me to fight to take his belt. But I really do feel like, and that's another guy, Lamont's been at 30 for plus years now. And I feel like with this last fight with Tank, I feel like it kind of has upscaled him a lot in his name, his career. And I feel like he probably is going to start. That was probably like his debut 35. I think he's going to stay at 35 and try to make some fights there. And, if I'm his team, is just probably smarter that way too, because it's probably a lot more money, trying to make those biggest fight now, because where he's elevated his name to with that performance versus Tank.
And now getting back to my previous point, though, man, my previous question, though, does that style exist out there that ultimately truly defeats Tank at 135? And is it a guy like Shakur?
Shakur has all the physical attributes to do it. And boxing IQ wise, Shakur is a great defensive fighter. He's a great counterpuncher. I feel like lately, though, they've been, in a sense, he's been letting the crowd or the masses dictate how he fights. He's been trying to sit in the pocket a lot more and go punch per punch and counter per counter, just to show like, okay, he can walk a man, or he has power in this and third. And I don't think that's the fight that he should fight Tank with. Because again, even to this day, I don't think that Shakur has really ever gotten hit like that. And I don't know how he would take those shots, but we gotta also see that Shakur is also physically bigger than Tank. He's longer than Tank. He has physical attributes, above Tank, but Tank got that one punch knockout power.
And now, so like obviously, like we see all these guys all kind of taking to social media at all different weight classes, all kind of jockeying for that title of like, the face of boxing. I've even had guys on here who say, until otherwise, it's still Canelo. You know what I mean? But then I hear guys who say it's Bud. I hear guys who say it's a lot of different things, man. Is there in your mind definitively a guy right now who is the face of boxing?
As of right now, no, I don't think so. At one point in time, you could have said that it was either one of the three. It could have been Canelo,
Right.
Crawford, or Tank at one point in time. Because at one point in time, the world was talking about Tank.
Yeah, they were.
Tank,
Yeah,
it was Tank sweepstakes. You get a fight with Tank, you in the money. You know what I mean? Same thing when it goes to Canelo in his weight class. Everybody's calling that. Everybody wants Canelo. It's 6 different guys in this division that could fight each other, but everybody wants to fight Canelo. Same thing when Crawford had his reign. Everybody, we want the Crawford fight. But y'all guys could be fighting each other,
right?
They want the Crawford fight. Yeah. So, but just right now, I just feel like with Crawford moving up, with him going, going for Alvarez, Alpha Tank's last performance, I feel like that's kind of a toss up right now, the face of boxing.
Now, you being at 130 right now, I had to look up because I thought that I was mistakenly thought that you had moved all the way up to 135. So looking at the rankings right now, want to get like a quick assessment from you. The champions that are currently holding belts at 130, and your assessment of them as fighters. WBO is Emmanuel Navarrete, who I think would be a fucking hell of a fight with you.
Yeah, I would love that fight. Yeah, I would love that fight.
And so your assessment of him as a fighter, obviously, I know ultimately, man, you have to say as a fighter that you're going to win that fight, and you should say that, you know what I mean? But taking yourself out of the equation, just looking at him from a fan standpoint and saying, here's what I see of him as a fighter. Your thoughts on him?
As a fighter, I think he's very strong. He's tough and durable. He punches from a lot of weird angles, and it's not even just that. He's able to throw uppercuts from a distance and be able to land them. As far as he's not just punching the punch at times, but I've seen with a lot of his fights, he's also kind of slow, so he's a lot easier to counter. But a lot of guys can't keep up with his gas tank. So, even though they might be landing good shots and this, that, and the third, ultimately he ends up walking them down. He ends up stopping. He throws good body shots. He throws a decent jab. Overall, he's a great puncher. He's kind of slow on his feet, but he's kind of slow on his feet.
Yeah. Now, what about now, from what I'm reading here, the IBF right now, currently vacant. Don't even have a champ right now.
Yeah.
So the WBC, and thank God, man, he came here, Turning Stone Casino, man, right down the road from me, man, had his rematch with Kinseyao, man, and Oshaki got his belt back, man, which he was criminally robbed in that first fight, man. Thank God. Thank God. But what's your assessment of him as a fighter? And I'm sure you know him, have some history with him, right?
Not as much. He actually was in that era, that generation, right before me. So I saw those guys fight, and I actually fought with a couple of those guys, that was in that same era, but I just never came across them like that.
Okay.
But overall, man, he's a great boxer. He's able, he can switch up. He got a good job. He has good boxing IQ in the ring as far as him being able to set up good shots. But more than anything, he works a great jab, and he's able to work off that jab and make things work off of it. And that's a skill that a lot of fighters tend to forget about or throw away, especially, when fatigue set in and things along that nature. But that's one thing that I know that he's very consistent with. He keeps a jab out there. He throws good combinations. He has a good gas. He has a decent gas tank. He has good foot movement also.
Now I would bring up the WBA guy, but I'm not going to. First of all, I can't fucking pronounce his name. Second of all, man, I want to ask you about somebody else who I'm really high on. They always say styles make fights, man. I've had him on before. He's coming on the show again on Sunday, man. Albert Bell.
Oh yeah, that's my guy. Yeah, that's my guy. Albert,
Prince. Man. Yeah, love that guy, man. Love that guy. I mean, he's 26-0, man. He's not quite the the guy that's going to sit there and slug it out with you like Navarrete would. A little different style.
Mm-hmm.
What's your assessment of him?
Dude is a excellent fighter, man. Has a great jab. He does a great setup where he jabs, steps back, and literally walks people into a nice uppercut. He throws good body shots. Just overall, man, he's a good boxer with great movement. And he's just a good fighter, man.
See, I like the fact that you can like, like assess these guys almost from like a broadcaster, if you will, type perspective, and not really feel like you have to run them down. You know what I mean? And talk shit about them. You feel comfortable on giving like a, somewhat of a report card on these guys. You know what I mean? I appreciate that because I feel like a lot of guys sometimes feel like, when they're pushed to talk about their competition, they instantly got to get their verbal jabs in there or they got to run guys down or whatever.
I've never felt that way about, boxing and doing about it. And I feel like all of that is added. It's just added, I guess, to show that, now boxing is today, just that, the whole act of what it is today.
It is.
Because a lot of these guys, that were having all these social media beefs, these same guys, they see each other every other day, training in the same cities with each other.
Yeah.
See each other at events, the same boxing, sporting events, and have conversations like it's nothing. Then, go on a podcast and trash talk each other.
And Brian kind of alluded to that same thing yesterday too. He's like, plus like a lot of these guys, like you can tell sometimes, man, that it's forced, almost like they feel like they have to be like this, like, alpha male. And I realize it's boxing. I realize you're going to fight this other guy or whatever, man. But sometimes like, like some of the trash talking, it does. It kind of feels a little artificial,
Absolutely, man. And like I said, some of these guys, we've grown up with through the amateurs. We've known these guys since we were 13, 14 years old. We know these guys not really like that. And so for us, when we're able to sit there and watch them, their antics online and stuff, it's hilarious, actually.
And so how much studying do you do on an opponent, man? Like, do you do a lot of it yourself or do you leave it up to your team? Like, like how informed are you on this Jeremy Hill that you're going to fight?
I typically, like, when I initially get the name, I look him up and I look up a couple fights.
Okay.
And a lot of times my dad trusts my judgment on, how I should approach a fight or, things that I need to be working on, in camp and things along that nature. But I always leave it up to him for a definite game plan on what I need to be doing. And a lot of times it's an observation that I've already made. And then once we get to talking and clicking, he's like, oh, yeah, okay, your head where it need to be. And I'm like, okay, yeah, good.
And now you're talking about your dad obviously being in your corner, man. You're still like a young guy with a lot of your career ahead of you, man. But like, if you're able to picture your life when you've hung the boxing gloves up and and stopped competing, do you feel like boxing will always be part of your life? I.e., you'll pursue like maybe promoting or training or having your own gym or something along those lines. Do you feel like boxing will always be, like what you do?
Absolutely. I think I'm always gonna have my foot, something in some way in boxing. Because I love the sport as a whole, and it's just I've never really been able to ever step away from boxing. And I feel like it's been so instrumental in my life in general, making me the person I am today that I wouldn't see myself doing, being without it.
In a perfect world right now, man, and I don't think this has to involve any trash talking, as I just said, or whatever, man. But in a perfect world right now, if someone told you could be your own promoter and you could pick your next 3 fights, who would they be?
It would be those 3 titles. It would be Navarrete. It would be Oshaki, and it would be the guy we can't.
Whatever the hell guy.
Yeah.
That we can't say.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy.
No, I almost feel like, in all fairness, man, that I should take a stab at it, man. Okay, so the WBA is Lamont Roach. That name I can say, man. So I guess it's the interim guy, Albert Batragaziev, and he's only 11-0.
Yeah.
11-0 to get an interim championship, man. Do you think sometimes, man, and you mentioned Keyshawn earlier too, and I'm super happy, man. Huge Keyshawn fan. I've had him on the podcast as well, man. But it's great to see him have the WBO title, man. But you used to see guys have to really labor in their career, man, and be 20 some odd fights into their career, man. Is it refreshing to know now that you don't have to fucking like have a shit ton of fights behind you, man, to be in contention for the world title?
On one hand, when it's you, you're cool. It's happy to see. I've seen a lot of guys be, salty about that fact. Like they felt like they grinded through the trenches for guys to come along and out of nowhere, and now all of a sudden they get a title shot. So ultimately, it's always who you got backing you, the team behind you.
Yeah.
And, the people, again, what they say is who you know, not what you know.
Right.
And, fortunately, you got guys like Keyshawn that talent speaks for itself. So, his talent speaks for why he was able to, secure that interim title. And but yeah, it's kind of refreshing to see that you don't have to bang out, 30, 40 fight, 30,
Yeah.
40 fights before
Yeah.
you start talking about being multi world champion and things along that nature.
Now, there was a story that was running a couple weeks ago. A couple boxers did speak out about it. Teofimo Lopez was one of them who was in favor of this. And I don't know if you saw this or not, man, but the WBA is flirting with the idea of possibly bringing back 15 rounders, but possibly trialing it with just championship fights at first, unification bouts, undisputed. What are your thoughts on another 9 minutes added to a championship fight?
I would love that. I'm a volume fighter.
I would think you'd be a guy that would love that. Yeah.
I'm a volume fighter and I love fighting. Yeah, I would love 15 rounds. I don't think he's going 15, but I would love 15 rounds.
I mean, obviously, it's a polarizing topic because we do see a lot of guys, in their post-fight career, not have their faculties. Obviously, it is a relentless sport, very taxing on the body. You're taking shots to the head or whatever. We've seen guys, in their retirement, man, not fare so well as far as their speech and their ability and everything like that, man. But I mean, but you, despite all that, you were for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a fighter. Regardless of anything, man, I'm a fighter. I'm not just, and I guess you can classify that differently as from a boxer, but I'm a fighter. I love fighting. So yeah. I'm down for 15.
Give me another 9 minutes. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, listen, man. So fucking before I let you out of here, man, and of course the internet is forever, man. This is recorded. This will be there, man. So give me the prediction for the 22nd.
Oh, this isn't going 6.
This isn't going 6. Okay. This isn't going 6.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he's gonna try to move. He's gonna try to run, but nah, he's not going to work. Yeah, this not going 6.
And for fans that want to tap in, do you have any information on how or where people can watch this if they're not in the physical area of where the fight is happening? First of all, where is the fight happening?
The fight is happening in San Diego, California.
San Diego,
on March 22nd. You can look up Overtime Boxing. You can go to their page, their Facebook, Instagram page, or their TikTok, and they'll be sharing links for it on their YouTube. And you can put it on the Zone.
Okay, cool, man. I wish you a lot of luck, man. I always love catching up with you, man. Go cause some mayhem, man. Go cause some mayhem.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. You've done the show now 3 times. I consider you a friend of the show, man. I love watching your career blossom, man. And best of luck. We'll definitely chop it up again, my friend.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, good talking to you, my friend. Best of luck, man. All right, we'll talk soon, man. Later. There he goes, folks. Maliek Mayhem Montgomery, 20-0, 18 knockouts, man. Competing at featherweight, man. His opponent on March 22nd, whatever the hell his name is here. Let me find it here in all my paper. Jeremy Hill, he's going down hard and fast. You heard it from the man himself, man. A 10-rounder. He said it won't go 6. Didn't lock in a specific round, man, but that's good enough for me, man. The guy's not going to go 6. If you watch Maliek Mayhem Montgomery do his thing, man, it's fighting in the phone booth, man. It's hey, I'm going to throw a gazillion fucking punches, man. Outlast me and outfight me. And most guys cannot, man, with Maliek, man. He's the real deal, man. He will wear you down and get you the fuck out of there, man. And he's continued to do it, man, in damn near all of his fights, man. As I said, 20-0, 18 dudes got fucking stopped, man. And looks like 19 is on the way, man. March 22nd, man. So tap in, man. Watch Maliek Mayhem Montgomery do his thing. And a world title shot definitely seems to be overdue, but for even if not overdue, certainly in the cards for 2025. That's the way Maliek is thinking. That's the way his team should be thinking. He's more than proved himself, man, and great young man, and really love watching his career blossom, man. Exciting, a fan-friendly style, man. Dude just loves to fight, man. You're not going to see you're not necessarily going to see tactical with Maliek. You're not going to see stick and move, you know what I mean? Like, use up a lot of the ring. You're going to see Maliek fucking meet his guy in the center of the ring, slug it out, man. And, eventually, man, Maliek seems to wear them all out and drop them eventually. And I don't think March 22nd is going to be any different, man. I will lock in a specific, just to do my man a solid here, I will lock in a specific, and I will say that this ends in the 4th round. Maybe his opponent ends it on his feet, but it will be a TKO or a flat-out KO, man. So round 4, let's see how my prediction holds up, man, because as I told Maliek, the internet is forever, man. So hopefully I won't have egg on my face, but I'm locking in round 4. You heard it here first. Make sure, as always, like I said earlier, like and follow Off the Couch Boxing on Facebook, and stay tapped in right here on YouTube by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell. As I said earlier, this right here is the home of the most amazing and real boxing conversations anywhere on planet Earth, man. Undefeated, undisputed, heavyweight champion. I got to get myself a belt, actually. Heavyweight champion of boxing podcast, bar none. Nobody's outworking me, outgrinding me, out hustling me. I'm running down the interviews that you guys want to see. I always say it, and I'm going to say it again. Legends, luminaries, world champions, and fighters on the come up, man. And I'm going to keep delivering the goods, man. And if you want to be a champion, like I always say, you can be a champion. You just got to make sure that you roll with the champs. Peace.